As I mentioned yesterday in an op-ed for the New York Times, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy said that social media companies should be required to display mental health warnings about the use of their platforms. Now, such a warning would require congressional action, and it would serve as both a reminder to parents and teenagers that social media use has not been proven safe and can actually have mental health consequences. Now, the warnings would be very similar to those now required on cigarette boxes. Given the growing body of research that has uncovered the intentionally addictive nature of social media platforms, should Congress consider such a move? Joining me now to discuss this, Dr. Tim Clinton, president of the American Association of Christian Counselors. Dr. Clinton, welcome to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Tony, thank you for having me. Delight to be with you.
Obviously, parents should monitor what their children consume online and whether or not they should be online. But could some extra help in the form of a warning be warranted?
Tony, we better do something because at the end of the day, we're losing our kids. I don't know if you saw the report that came out a couple of years ago. The CDC reported that 57% of our daughters, our granddaughters, felt persistently sad during that year. I'm talking about our daughters and our granddaughters. And they also found that 30% of our daughters, our granddaughters, had seriously contemplated suicide in 2021. Now, I know there are a lot of factors related to it, but at the end of the day, we all know that those phones, those devices that we have in our hands, it's insane what's happening. And you're right, the algorithm piece, what they're doing is they're targeting our kids. So if a kid innocently is up there discouraged, depressed, or getting bullied or something like that, they wind up getting targeted with messages and images and more that only drive them further and further in those kind of directions. And so we've got to do something. We've got to get control.
Let's talk a little bit about those techniques that are used in those algorithms, Dr. Clinton. There's such a thing as instant gratification by the likes that someone gets the response, the immediate response, which actually releases dopamine, which is a feel-good neurotransmitters. I mean, these things there's a physiological effect on the users.
Tony, in mental health and addiction research, we understand there are two types of real patterns that stand out. One is substance abuse addiction, where you ingest a chemical to hijack the brain and whatever you're trying to accomplish with that, feel-good sensation or what have you, and it's highly addictive. There's also behavioral addictions where, think of gambling, think of viewing pornography. What it does literally is the same process that this behavior, this engagement hijacks the brain, releases the chemicals in the brain, and by the way, it's intoxicating. It becomes highly addictive. We're finding that is happening with this whole online world that, hey, look, everybody, everywhere you go, you can't help but see people on their phone, from church to restaurants, Tony, to school, at the water cooler. It's just unbelievable what's happening. And when you're targeted, it's consuming.
Well, as you mentioned, when you combine that with the algorithms that track what you look at, and so it feeds on you, so it becomes like this, I mean, it has this vortex. I mean, it just sucks you in.
It does, Tony. And then add on top of that, I'll give you a couple more P's to go with this, the pressures the kids are experiencing, not only academically in sports, but think about cyberbullying and what's going on. Think about the comparison stuff that starts happening when you're up online, you're alone in your own bedroom, and you're thinking about how everybody else is out having fun and you're locked up or what have you. And the hate that then begins to get spewed all over. People have that they call it digital courage, if you will, and it's just so destructive. Add pornography to the list, Tony. 50% of online sites are porn in nature. We know that kids as early as age are getting first-time exposure to pornography, and then those patterns then continue to, quote, develop rutting in the brain where, again, it's consuming. And then throw in one more P, Tony, predators up online. You know, moms and dads, we've got to get to a whole new place here. We've got to have new levels of conversation and say, listen, we've got to do something because, again, We're losing our kids.
So why do you think that some parents, not all, some parents are maybe timid about engaging their children when it comes to their social media consumption?
You know, Tony, two things come to my mind. One is it's pretty easy just to let the kids have the phone or to let the kids go do their own thing. You're tired, you're exhausted, the pace, the pressure, the pain of modern day life is chewing everybody up, and everybody's out of control. And so you kind of let people drift away. Throw on top of it then also just the preoccupation piece with the internet. When people get consumed in it, they get defensive, they get grouchy. You try to get them off the phone or what have you, and the next thing you know, you're in a fight. So, hey, let sleeping dogs lie. So I see a lot of parents turn away, and so they just don't want to go there. And the tragedy, again, is our kids are getting lost in this cyber world.
Oftentimes parents look at what their children are being exposed to or what they have access to and engage it the same way that they do. But young people, I mean, up until the mid-20s, your brain is still developing. So you really can't, it's not apples to apples when you consider adult using social media as opposed to a child. So with that in mind, and you can speak to that, but would it be helpful to have Congress approve of warning labels going on social media?
We've got to do something, Tony, and we've got to help parents get control here. Again, the pattern piece here, what it does is it just, again, hijacks the brain and consumes people to a place where that release to let go, you just have to keep doing the same behavior over and over again to create the same desired effect. So, hey, let's be honest. There's a lot of stuff online that's fun. You get up on there, you're gaming, having fun, you're scrolling through videos, etc. They bring some joy, especially if you're bored or if you're really bummed out about life. And so these kids just live in this thing is what they're doing. And again, go back to the algorithm pattern stuff that keeps coming and flooding in their direction, especially if it gets into a negative, vicious cycle. That's the stuff we've got to get concerned about. Warning labels, we better do more than that. We better figure out how to tell parents how to manage this well so that we can see the benefit side and make sure we protect ourselves on the downside.
All right, Dr. Clinton, we just have a couple minutes left. Let's do that. Let's first talk about, very quickly, what should parents be looking for as warning signs that their children have a problem with social media?
You know, there are a few of them. One, being preoccupied with the internet, just consumed with it all the time. Again, I see a lot of parents just letting their kids live on digital devices because it's easier that way. And they found some things that the kids like, and the kids get consumed by it. And then we lose that time factor. Two, when they're defensive, they can't get off. They're grouchy. I mean, they lose their mind. How many parents out there would raise their hand and say, I understand what you're talking about? They lose track of time. They're spending hours and hours of time. I saw some of the stats, Tony. 5 hours a day teens are spending up on social media. That's conservative. Some are saying 8 to 18-year-olds are about 10 hours a day. Heavy users, catch this, 16 plus hours a day up online.
How do you spend 16 hours a day online? You couldn't be
crazy.
doing anything else.
Yeah, you're just living you're living with a device in front of you. And you know what, Tony? A lot of kids are locking themselves up in their room. They're giving up their sleep time, certainly all their family time. These kids aren't outside playing soccer, softball,
Right.
baseball, fishing, or what have you. They're just locked down in their rooms.
All right, Dr. Clinton, very quickly, 30 seconds. What are some practical steps parents can take to begin to rein in that runaway time with social media?
Tony, I'm big on relationship connection. Get connected with your kids. There's a beautiful word out there called attunement. Can you see your kids where they're at, what they're going through? The busy, preoccupied parent misses all those cues or those opportunities to be in those special moments. Kids want a relationship with mom and or dad. So we start there. Let's build that bridge back. And then, make sure that they're seen, that you know what you love about them. Make sure your kids know that, Tony, and figure out how to help them soothe that emotion regulation stuff, that chaos that's going on in their life. If moms and dads would just step in, the number one thing that still makes kids happy is a good relationship with mom and or dad.
Absolutely. Dr. Tim Clinton, great advice, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony.